Here's a hot take. I don't think it's fair for gamers to call the majority of exotic cars overrated, but I do think it's okay to see a car as overhyped. Let me explain. Overrated means whatever people are talking about isn't as good as they say it is. The way I see it, in order to justify the claim, you had to experience it yourself. When it comes to cars, however, that is a much harder thing to do than, say, play a video game or watch an episode of a TV show or a movie, or even just tasting food. Basically stuff that's mainly cheap is what I'm trying to say here. You have to find someone who has the car in question and actually drive the car to gain perspective on what it's like. You can't get that experience in a game like Gran Turismo. It's very different. What's more, the reasons why a car may be considered so good by so many people are very different from car to car. Some people say a car has to handle perfectly to be amazing, and yet people adore cars like Lamborghini Countach or DMC DeLorean despite not being great handling cars to begin with, because they love them for different reasons. Now granted, said fans can be very annoying for how much they praise a car for being the best thing ever, which is why calling it overhyped is justified. But saying it's not as good as they say when the only experience that people downplaying it is a game, which more often than not isn't a one-to-one representation of real life, just screams blind arrogance in my opinion. I bring this up because the Toyota Supra is a prime example of me getting annoyed every time people call it overrated, which is far too often. I get that Supra fanboys can be nonsensical and hype it up to the high heavens, but they wouldn't have done it if the car wasn't great to begin with. It has the grunt, it has the driver focus, especially with the interior design, it has racing pedigree, and it has legacy. I won't be going into more details on that, since you can watch this review in the top right corner to get the full rundown. What I want to focus on is where the legacy in media truly started. Not with Fast and Furious, but Gran Turismo 1. Yeah, before Paul Walker took the Supra name to a whole new height of popularity, Gran Turismo 1 was what kickstarted the legacy for people getting started into car culture. Granted, it's easy to see why FNF stole the spotlight. Movies were much more mainstream than video games at the time, especially with how convenient it is to access with theaters, DVDs, and TV channels, compared to just the PlayStation. But Gran Turismo is still a significant name in the automotive world, and the Supra made a big first impression with the first game. Similar to the Mitsubishi GTO I talked about last time, the RZ model of the A80 is one of the most powerful cars in the game fully tuned at just under 900 horsepower. Except this time, it's accompanied by rear-wheel drive instead of all-wheel drive. The Supra is the only one of the big three to have this feature. And although it doesn't have the stability of the GTO or R33, it does give it a unique handling signature that appeals to lots of people like me. Unlike the GTO, however, there's more to the Supra than just being a massive powerhouse for the RZ. We've got the A70 Supra as well, the third generation. The 3.0 GT Limited is very well known in the fanbase for being easily the best starter car in the game. You can buy it for 6,000 to 8,000 credits, and it comes equipped stock with 234 horsepower, a lot more than other cars this price range in the game. Since this is a Supra, you can also give it big numbers to wipe the floor with the competition in many events without the need to buy another car. That's something about the Supra I admire in most racing games it's in. Its versatility. It's just the right size and power that you can use it for pretty much anything. It's a pleasure to work with given the amount of models it offers. Even more admirable when you realize this doesn't fall in the same trap the Skyline or Miata falls, where there's way too many duplicates of the same essential base. We can't talk about the Supra and Gran Turismo without discussing the Castrol Supra. To me, this is the hero car of the Gran Turismo franchise. Sure, you have your Excudos, your GT1s, your 787Bs, your 4 GTLMs, but this came first. And it was very good in every incarnation. Even in GT7, which is very meta-focused in sport mode, it wasn't uncommon to see at least 1 or 2 GT500 Supras in the lineup doing very well. GT1, no exception. This is one of the most well-rounded race cars in the game, with fantastic straight-line performance and much better handling than you would might expect. It's my go-to for the max speed challenge as well, since the top speed is one of the best of the race cars. It also has some nice cosmetic bonuses in this game as well. Not only can you buy it with blue accents instead of green, which is interesting, but might not be to everyone's tastes. But by winning the Grand Valley 300 km event, you can win a secret black version. I love this Supra. And I love that it's a tough one to get, as it's like a precursor to the stealth models like I mentioned in the past. Is this my favorite Supra in Gran Turismo? No, GT3 nostalgia aids me in awarding that to the 2000s model, but this is a close second for me. Also, it has this power figure. Japan does not give a hoot. As for my personal relationship with the Supra in general, I had a soft spot without realizing it. In particular, the Castrol models. I found the wing on the normal Supra kinda weird as a child, but put on traditional wings and squished it to beef it up, and it was a delight to my eyes. I suppose this promo image also helped. Speaking of the Viper, however, a couple of months ago I did a thought experiment. Like I always do, but this one was rather interesting. What would my favorite car be if the Dodge Viper wasn't in Gran Turismo 1? Or basically the whole series until, say, Gran Turismo 5. You know, if Dodge vehicles were similar to Ferrari or McLaren in terms of EA's licensing, like if Dodge was part of that licensing agreement. If you really think about it, for people like me, nostalgia plays possibly the most important role in deciding favorites. As much as I adored some of the later cars like the Audi RS6 Avant and Kia Stinger GT, I know none of them will replace the GTS for number 1, despite not suiting my personality, ironically. So after some thinking, personal realizations and breakthroughs, the Toyota Supra would be that car. I love big rear-wheel drive sports cars, so the Supra has that. But more importantly, the cars that I loved as a kid were good as road cars, but amazing and very memorable as race cars. In racing games, I prefer driving racing cars over road cars for the sheer ability alone. One of the reasons the Viper stayed as my favorite was because the GTSR was a mainstay and was very good in all incarnations. The Castrol Supra is the same thing. The only thing the Viper has over the Supra to me was standing out with the base horsepower on the standard road car. Which means in that alternate timeline, there was a chance it could have been the TVR Supra when I was like 5. But we never got the LM past GT2, so the Supra would have taken that spot. After making that realization, the Supra landed in my top 10 favorite cars at the time. Not sure if it would stick now, but I really do love it. While its legacy has persisted throughout the franchise and in real life, I will never forget the Supra's true legacy origins, largely due to its versatility and just everything about the Castrol Supra. I haven't even mentioned one of the very few tuner Supras in the franchise, the TRD 3000 GT. There's only 2 tuner cars in Gran Turismo 1, the other being the iconic Nismo 400R. This is obviously not as strong, but it's honestly one of the coolest cars in the game for me. With those large hood intakes and race car-esque body kit, I love it. That said, the key and I would likely pick up that this footage isn't quite the same as the rest of the video. I got a buddy of mine to record it for me because the method to obtain it... Supra good.